Hey guys, what's going on? So tracewrote, what the heck is that? Well, one of the things I've been wanting to do with video is revisit blog posts that we've written or LinkedIn posts that we've written and go back to them and cover them with a little bit of video to add some color commentary that was maybe hard to get in text only. And today we're revisiting a blog post because I want to highlight a product feature that I love. As automation engineers, control engineers, how often do you think, this product already knows X about this system, and I wish it would just go ahead and make my life easier by doing Y based on that knowledge. And these types of features are few and far between in my experience, at least in the OT networking portion. Curious to hear what you guys would say about the rest of your automation equipment. But when they exist, they are absolutely delightful. More importantly than that, they make a customer's life easier. And reminder, my customers are controls engineers interested in building more robust networks, but with little time or desire to become full-time network engineers, let alone command line gurus. So I'm always looking out for GUIs that balance power and ease of use. And enter WeConfig. So WeConfig is a piece of software delivered by Westermo for their managed switches. And this piece of software, it's not a full-blown NMS. And by the way, this piece of software, as of February 2025, has continued to be free. And while it's not a full-blown NMS, Westermo refers to it as a network configuration manager, but I would argue it's more than that. It does, in addition to some really awesome configuration and maintenance features, there's some decent monitoring and diagnostic pieces as well. But in this particular blog post and in this video, we're talking about a configuration feature, and specifically VLAN configuration. VLAN configuration. We teach a 2-day industrial networking class. We teach it to end users at their facility, and you may have seen online we also have a version where individuals come out to Dallas for an event we call tracewrote Con. It's that 2-day training kind of put on in a small conference format. And in this training, we spend some time, as you can imagine, on VLANs. First, just talking about the fundamentals, foundationally, what is it? And I bring up, what's interesting is after we go through the kind of technical portion about just what are VLANs, why do you need them, I would say pretty much the entire room understands VLANs, maybe understands them better than they have before. And then I pose the question, okay, so if everyone here agrees you understand what they are, why are they such a hassle or a problem? And my proposal is that it's because there's nothing fundamentally challenging about understanding VLANs, but the problem is user interfaces. From vendor to vendor, they vary, even within a vendor, between generations of their solutions, the UI differs, and sometimes they're just bad. It takes a relatively simple concept of creating access ports and trunk ports and overcomplicates the UI and makes it really easy to make mistakes. And I'd say that's why people sometimes have a negative opinion or desire to implement VLANs, is because they've had a bad user experience setting them up on a particular product or platform. And that's not me nitpicking on one. I'm saying almost across the board, this has been a problem. And that's one of the reasons I want to highlight this feature, but it's also to take it up a level. So in this blog post, we're basically sharing a video that Westermo created, and we have a little basic architecture here of 6 switches in a ring, and I'm posing the question and the problem of, if you've ever set up a managed network before like this, and especially if it's even larger, let's say instead of 6 it's 10 or 15 or 20 switches, and you need to add a VLAN and kick out some access ports in that VLAN all around this ring, that is a tedious and error-prone proposition, because in many of these platforms, you're going to individual switches one-on-one and making configuration changes to add the VLAN, configure access ports, and potentially explicitly configure that new VLAN to be tagged on trunk ports. And then you might be checking neighbor tables in the switch to make sure, am I even doing this on the correct ports? Do I have this on a port that's facing another switch that's a trunk port? And there's a lot of different UIs for configuring VLANs. What you're going to see in this video is maybe one you've seen before if you've ever configured on Hirschman or Siemens or on Westermo. Maybe you've even seen it in a Netgear, like consumer level switch. It's this concept of an access port. If you have multiple VLANs defined on the switch, an access port would be one for which you've defined U, that it has untagged membership in that VLAN, but it should only have a single U. It can only be, an access port is only a member of one VLAN. Or on a trunk port, you'll have a U for one VLAN, that would be the native VLAN, and then all the other VLANs you want to carry on that trunk, you would want to have a T, or tag traffic for that VLAN. And so you can kind of picture in some of these platforms, you end up with this giant matrix of ports by VLAN IDs, and then picking in these cells of this matrix, U here, T here, U here, T here, and like I said, very error prone and tedious. And so in this example, I'm just gonna go to another tab where I've got this video pulled up, and basically just play through this video and show what that same situation looks like when you have WeConfig and this pretty cool feature. So right off the bat, the first thing they're doing is just selecting all the devices. And so you'll notice they're all highlighted yellow now. Going to the configuration tab, and then going to the VLAN sub tab. And all we're going to do is hit this add button, and I'll pause it right there. All we've done is just added the devices to this VLAN configuration window. So each little area here is a single switch. So this is the 9314 switch. This is the 9310 switch. And we can see all the ports for that switch. And we're looking at its VLAN 1 membership settings right now. So we can tell this is kind of a flat out of the box, every port's a member of VLAN 1 situation. But I've got a scroll bar here, so if I kept scrolling, you would see all the switches. And then the first thing we're going to do is literally add the new VLAN here. So he's going to new, it's going to prompt for a VLAN ID. We're going to pick VLAN 100 here. And notice after he hits OK that we've filtered the output here to only show us the VLAN configuration associated with 100, because it's anticipating you want to make some changes about VLAN 100. And then here's the key part. As we scroll, it says select the device where the VLAN edge port's untagged and click on the relevant port until a U is shown. So we're just going to go and pick the ports around this ring on different devices where we want to kick out access ports in this VLAN and put a U there for that switch and that port. But notice also as we're scrolling, so he's defining 9 and 10 on this switch as untagged in VLAN 100. But do you notice there's already some T's here? And the note had flagged to us, and this, in my opinion, is kind of part of the killer feature here. There's no need to add tag ports. This will be done automatically. So WeConfig has already earlier automatically created this topology. It discovered and found how these switches are interconnected and knows which port on this switch connects to which port on this switch. And based on knowing that, it's also saying, oh, I'm assuming since you created this new VLAN, you're going to want to tag this VLAN around on those trunk ports. So we don't have to do anything about trunk port configuration. All we have to do is scroll around and create the access ports with the U. And one more thing, I mentioned that an access port is untagged in only a single VLAN. Right now we're only looking at VLAN 100 that has the U that we've added, but there's still U's defined on this switch in VLAN 1. So in those other platforms, this is where those errors come up. You forget to remove the U's from VLAN 1 for the ports you're assigning to VLAN 100. Now you have potentially an issue. But we get a note here from WeConfig telling us, hey, 9 and 10 are also untagged in VLAN 1. Do you want to remove the ports in other VLANs? Do you want us to resolve the conflict? So we hit yes, and instead of having to set the filter to 1 and go remove the U's in 1, it goes ahead and does that for us. And so we can just go around, hit every switch, just put the U's where we want them, let WeConfig resolve the conflicts, and we are done. And so a procedure that could easily take 15, 30 minutes, an hour on a large system, and like I said, be very error prone and tedious, becomes something you can do in seconds. One more thing I want to point out about this video, look at the age of it. This video is 8 years old. And in the 8 years since, I don't think I've seen this feature in any other like dedicated OT network platform. I saw something similar recently in an enterprise platform with some OT SKUs, and maybe after I put some hands on it, I'll post a follow-up. But this is one of those things where I'm like, if you've done it the other way and then you do it this way, you don't ever want to do it the other way again. And I wish this was a feature every vendor implemented. A lot of vendors don't even have any sort of software platform like this. And then other ones, they have NMSs and software platforms, but they just, for whatever reason, haven't added this very useful, super efficient configuration piece. And then I'd also point out, make sure you check out the other videos in this playlist, because there are a lot more cool things WeConfig can do, and it has plenty of other tricks up its sleeve. So, what do y'all think? Is this feature cool? Have you seen others like it? Let me know in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Peace.